The following program is part of Cable in the Classroom, a free service of the cable communications industry and your local cable company.
Welcome back to class. Today, we're hunting big game, the grand prize for storm chasers. Hollywood even makes movies about these things. When they come, they always make headlines, even though they may only last a few minutes. They can be 20 feet wide and dance harmlessly through the Great Plains, or they can be mile-wide monsters scouring the earth, destroying everything in their path. In all the weather world, there's nothing that fascinates us or scares us quite as much as the sight and sound of tornadoes. Think about it. What kind of weather scared you when you were a little kid? Lightning? Thunder? Well, I don't know about you, but for me, nothing was scarier than a tornado. And the truth is, they really are dangerous. They derail freight trains, demolish entire towns, whipping up winds in excess of 300 miles per hour. But like most things, a little information can make even tornadoes not so scary. Now, they may be the most dangerous and violent storms Mother Nature throws at us, but for a lot of people, that makes them the most interesting too. So let's get out there with the wild winds and unravel the mysteries of the elusive twister. I'll be right here.
Some say the word tornado comes from a combination of the Latin word tornare, which means to turn, and the Spanish word tronada, or thunderstorm. So, tornado, twister, cyclone, whatever you want to call these storms, they can mean disaster when they touch down. Our big game hunter Brandon is on the trail of a tornado now, although I'm not really sure we want him to find one.
It's late afternoon here, and the air is hot and still. In the distance, dark clouds are piling up like castles in the sky. You can see them getting thicker and blacker. Now, let's keep real quiet and still like, and watch that long finger of cloud reach down from the menacing sky. Okay, so maybe that one got away, but this is still the place where you find the really big twisters. At least that's what the guy who sold me this map said. Big twisters. Somewhere around here. This is America's heartland, the Great Plains. They say in the summer here that the corn grows so fast that you can actually see it sprouting before your eyes. Wheat sways gently in a warm breeze. Big puffy white clouds sail across a sea of blue overhead. Pretty country, so it's kind of hard to believe that it's also known as Tornado Alley.
In the United States, there are usually more than 1,000 tornadoes each year. That's more than anywhere else on the planet. And the heart of the action is in Tornado Alley, which extends from Texas, across Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. It just so happens that this pretty stretch of countryside is home to the right ingredients for the severe storms that spawn tornadoes. In other words, they get the most tornadoes because they're in the right place.
If you want to study tornadoes, Oklahoma is pretty much the center of the world. Here in Norman, just outside of Oklahoma City, is the National Severe Storms Laboratory. The experts here know all about severe storms and the tornadoes they produce.
Here at the National Severe Storms Laboratory, we do basic research work on storms. Severe convective storms, tornadoes, but also winter storms. All of the bad storms we try to understand better.
Historically, our biggest area of research has been into tornadoes, and particularly looking at them with Doppler radar. And we were pioneers in the radar research into severe weather. And that's actually the reason why the Severe Storms Lab is in this location, is that there was a weather research facility here before the Severe Storms Lab began. And research activities in the 1950s came to Norman every year because of a small airport here and because of the radar facilities that were here.
This is our brand new mobile Doppler radar. Let me show you what it looks like. Of course, we have a driver and we have a navigator. We have to get to the right place and we have to get there safely. And then we have in the back of the vehicle instrumentation. There's a lot of electronics in a radar. Then back behind the cab, this is the transmitter and the receiver. This is the antenna system, perhaps the most recognizable part of the radar. There's a feed horn right there, the thing that looks like a fish hook. It focuses that radiation on the parabolic dish and it reflects it out into space. Then we stop transmitting, we wait and we listen for a fraction of a second, and we get the returns back on that parabolic dish, and then that same feed horn collects all those returns. They go to the receiver, and it's processed, and that's how we see the winds inside the storm.
Over the last 100 years, the death toll from tornadoes has dropped dramatically. We no longer have tornadoes that kill 100 people, which back in the 1920s was almost an annual occurrence.
The research that's done here at the National Severe Storms Laboratory and at other places around the country, it does help to save lives.
Thunderstorms are pretty common on hot summer afternoons, but when you get a really big one and the conditions are just right, a twister can hatch. See, in your garden variety thunderstorms, there are normally updrafts and downdrafts, which is basically just air moving up and down. But in a convective or tornado-producing storm, other wind conditions are happening as well.
Thunderstorms occur when warm, moist air meets cool air. The warm air rises and clouds form as the storm develops. Wild winds moving in different directions, called wind shear, cause the air to start spinning, almost like an invisible horizontal tornado in the lower atmosphere. When this spinning tube of air meets an updraft, it tilts from horizontal to vertical and tightens its spin, which increases its speed. This is called a vortex.
You probably know more about how this works than you think, and I'm not quite good enough yet to do this right, but a friend of mine can help us out. This is Alex. Now let's say Alex here is a convective storm. As the air rises, it starts to spin. Now watch what happens when she tucks her arms in close. Her rate of rotation increases dramatically, and this is called conservation of angular momentum. Pretty cool, huh? Thanks, Alex. No problem. Now the same thing happens in our atmosphere. As the air is converged into the strong updraft of an intense thunderstorm, the rate of spin increases, which makes the colossal wind speeds we see in tornadoes. And that's Tornadoes 101.
Tornadoes can occur almost anywhere there's a severe thunderstorm, and not just in Tornado Alley. They've touched down in Maine, Oregon, Wyoming, even Alaska. Tornado season is usually from around March to August, but some twisters have hit in late November and even December. They're very unpredictable. Now, speaking of unpredictable, let's catch up with the big storm chaser himself.
Out here in the wild, the key to survival is understanding your prey.
Oh, all right, there is no tornado. You happy now? Huh? Tornadoes form when there's an intense thunderstorm going on. Clusters of cumulonimbus clouds will begin to boil up in the sky. There may be thunder, lightning, rain, even hail. And a lot of times, just before the telltale funnel cloud begins to form, the sky turns this kind of greenish color. And that's caused by sunlight passing through huge amounts of rain or hail in the clouds. No sign of the little boogers yet, though. Looks like it may be a little while.
Okay, Brandon, well, you keep looking. Now, experts used to think that the winds in a tornado were over 500 or maybe even 800 miles per hour. But in recent years, using things like Doppler radar, we've learned that winds rarely get above 250 miles per hour. And most twisters clock in around 110.
A typical tornado usually won't be more than about 400 to 500 feet wide and will only travel a few miles. A mile-wide tornado is extremely rare, but monster twisters can last for an hour or more and can travel many miles. Usually, tornadoes move along the ground at about 20 to 50 miles per hour, but some race along faster than 70 miles per hour. The thing is, even the small twisters can be very powerful and cause terrible damage.
So how bad can a tornado be? Well, in 1971, a scientist named Fujita came up with a scale that describes the intensity of a storm. He became really famous, and one of our very own experts at the Weather Channel was one of his students.
Working with Dr. Fujita was a tremendous experience, a unique experience for a graduate student. I got to fly around doing hundreds of aerial damage surveys of hundreds of tornadoes, some ground surveys. He also had a project where we would charter a Learjet and go fly behind a squall line, monitoring the up and down motion of the storm tops to see if that related to tornado production at the ground. So had a view of clouds as they were producing tornadoes and then seeing the aftermath in the damage surveys. The Fujita scale, or F scale, is a way to characterize tornadoes based upon the damage that they produced. It goes from F0 to F5, with 5 being the highest. At F0, the damage is fairly cosmetic to buildings. Shingles, a few awnings are damaged, some trees are knocked down, a number of branches blown off. The top end of the F0 wind speeds are estimated to be around 72 miles per hour, the beginning of hurricane force winds. F1, getting up to around the 100 mile per hour range. Portions of roofs are blown away. Mobile homes may roll or be partly disintegrated. F2, most roofs will be taken off of homes. Mobile homes totally demolished in many cases. F3, walls will be, some of the exterior walls of buildings will be demolished. The roofs will be gone, maybe just a few inner rooms standing. F4, buildings rendered to a pile of rubble. F5, the total foundation is swept clean. The building contents broken up into little pieces and blown downwind by the tornado's strong winds. Winds in some F5 tornadoes may exceed 300 miles per hour.
Well, still no sign of tornadoes. No twisters. Not a cloud in the sky. Nothing. Nope.
Our main responsibility at the Storm Prediction Center is to forecast severe storms. By severe storms, we mean thunderstorms that can produce tornadoes or produce winds over 50 knots or 58 miles per hour, or hail 3/4 of an inch or larger. Sometimes we get combinations of that, or sometimes we just get specifically just damaging winds or something like that. But our main job is to forecast severe storms. Now, we don't do it locally, we do it across the whole country. So it really takes quite a few of us to monitor the whole country. Well, we look at a menagerie of products. We use satellite imagery to give us a feel for the weather patterns that are going on across the United States and the Northern Hemisphere. When you forecast severe storms, you kind of have to start way out and move your way in as far as a certain location or a certain couple of states. So we need to look at satellite imagery to get a feel for the weather pattern. With that, then we use model data and observational data, in other words, that was temperature, dew point, things like that, in order to get a feel for what the environment is like and how the environment is structured. It takes a certain environment to produce severe storms or supercell storms, and we look for those particular ingredients to really come together to produce that kind of activity.
All right. Everybody's heard of storm chasers. You see them on TV and in the movies. It takes a special kind of person to go looking for trouble like a tornado. And no, they're not crazy. Fact is, if scientists want to learn more about tornadoes, they've got to get out there with them. And these folks don't take their business lightly. Here at the University of Oklahoma is a legend among storm chasers. He's Howard Bluestein, and in over 20 years of chasing tornadoes, he's come to know these monsters as well as anybody.
The storm chasing that we've seen in the movie Twister is not quite the same as what we call storm chasing in real life. We don't end up stopping at friends' houses for dinner along the way. We travel many thousands of miles in the hopes of seeing a tornado. and we don't put ourselves in harm. In Twister, you saw the storm chasers getting a little bit too close for comfort near tornadoes. We try to position ourselves at least a mile, perhaps 2 miles, or even 3 miles away from the tornado so that we can get a good view of the tornado, get high-resolution data with our radars, but also be safe. Well, the primary reason why we chase storms is that we're trying to learn why it is that some supercell storms produce tornadoes and others don't. In addition, we're trying to understand the structure of the tornado. Where are the wind speeds the strongest? How do the wind speeds vary around the tornado? In order to learn these things, you have to go out in nature and get close to the tornado and make measurements that we bring back and we analyze, and then we try to use computers to go ahead and do controlled experiments to try to understand why it is that under certain conditions you get a storm that produces a tornado and in others you do not.
So, tornadoes can definitely be scary things, no doubt about that. Thing is, they're really amazing too. Nature doesn't put on a much more impressive show than a twister, and even though you don't want to get in the way of a tornado, you're definitely one of the lucky few if you ever get to see one in person. So, what most people know about tornadoes, they learn from the same place we learn all kinds of things: TV and the movies.
In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy and her little dog Toto learned about tornadoes the hard way, and look where it landed them. In the movie Twister, storm chasers went looking for trouble and found plenty of it in the end. Tornadoes are even more impressive in real life because they can strike with little or no warning, and they can happen anywhere, at any time.
In April 1974, one storm system called the Super Outbreak spawned 148 individual tornadoes, devastating an area from Alabama to Michigan. 30 F4 and F5 tornadoes ground across the United States, killing 300, injuring 6,000, and destroying $600 million worth of property. The single worst tornado tragedy occurred in 1925 in the Tri-State outbreak. Several tornadoes claimed the lives of almost 750 people. Most recently, an outbreak of 78 tornadoes tore through Oklahoma, Kansas, and Tennessee in the spring of 1999, killing dozens and leaving thousands more homeless. One of the biggest funnels cut a swath of destruction half a mile wide at its base, with radar-clocked winds faster than 300 miles per hour.
So the key to surviving tornadoes is knowing that they're coming and what to do when they arrive.
The sadness that occurs when you realize the devastation, the injury, the strong effect it has on people's lives for the rest of their life, the emotional scars that come from being in a tornado. I have done a number of damage surveys, and nothing is more sobering than walking through the rubble, sometimes no more than the flat surface of this asphalt parking lot, that you know was someone's house. A family lived there. They had their things like we have our things. Those things are gone.
At the Storm Prediction Center, in fact, along with the whole Weather Service, what we have is a concept that we call Ready, Set, Go. In the ready stage is when we issue the severe weather outlook that identifies the area that we're going to be monitoring as meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center and as a National Weather Service, where we're going to be monitoring severe storms to develop that particular day. That tells people, okay, I may be in this area. That's a good time to make sure that you have radio, a battery-powered radio available, that you know where you're going to go and what you're going to do when severe storms are going to develop. As the day progresses and the environment becomes more primed for severe storms, then we'll define an area that we put in a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch. That's set. So now we're at ready, we're at set. That set means that it's time to keep an ear to the TV or to the radio to make sure that you know that weather is changing, where it's changing, and when it's going to approach your area. Then the National Weather Service local offices will issue a warning. That's when a severe thunderstorm either has been observed or has been identified by radar, and when they issue that warning, then it's time to go to safety.
The safest place in a tornado is going to be below ground. if you can't be below ground, if you have a safe room that's specially designed to withstand tornado force winds, that is the second best place. But lacking those two options, the safest place is going to be above ground in a interior hallway, interior closet.
Safe room is a room that basically has no windows and no outside doors. It has doors that lead into from other rooms that lead into the safe room. You can have a safe room in your house simply by going to an interior room in the home, such as maybe a hallway that does not have any exterior doors, it doesn't have any exterior windows.
The reason people panic is they don't have a plan in place and they don't know what to do. By having a severe weather plan in place, that's going to help avoid panic. This is a below ground storm shelter that we have had constructed in our home. There are above ground safe rooms that people can build as well, but we decided to have a below ground storm shelter. There's a very heavy steel door there. We have emergency lights, we have emergency provisions down there, water and juice for the kids and snacks. Usually I go down there first and bring them down. So I'll go down.
I can go down all by myself.
Let me help you, okay?
No, but I can do that.
Okay. We'll get down here and we'll close the door.
Okay, maybe, just maybe, I'm not cut out to be a storm chaser. It's probably best. Learned a lot about tornadoes, though. Know when to find them, know where to find them, even know what to do when one of them finds you. So it wasn't such a bad trip after all. In fact, you know that guy who sold me the map? He even traded it in for me so I could see a movie when I get home. And not bad, eh? Finally bagged me a twister, and she's a real beauty. Well, I gotta be going. See you back at class. After a while, Crocodile. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, and Oklahoma, okay.
Well, that's about it for class today. I don't know about you, but frankly, I'm okay with not catching a tornado. They're one of the most amazing sights in all of nature, and we've definitely come a long way toward understanding them since Dorothy and Toto rode one to Oz. But for all we do know, we're still never sure about exactly when or where they're going to hit, and that makes them as deadly as they are intriguing. So look, but don't touch, okay? Good. For the Weather Classroom, I'm Sarah. See you next time.